Hey seahorses, welcome back to another power session.
Today, Ms. Levsen is going to talk to us about her career in public health.
She doesn't cure people like a doctor, but she prevents them from getting sick in the first place through research and education about health.
Her work includes nutrition, vaccination, disease, and alcohol and tobacco risks.
Now check out this great interview with her work with marine worms called Plantaneris dumarelli. Check it out.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Levsen. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I would like to begin by thanking you so much for spending this time to share with our students about your career and how that may tie in with our North Star traits at our school here at Coral Charter. So we'll begin with, I guess, if you would just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your career.
Yes. Thank you. And hello, Coral Seahorses. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. I am currently a public health student. And so I'm just getting my career in that area. And I did want to share a short little story. It's a metaphor about what public health is that might help explain what it is I'm trying to do in this area. The story goes, a man was fishing in the river when he noticed he was drowning. He pulled them out and attempted to resuscitate them. Shortly afterwards, he noticed another person in the river and saved them too. He then noticed another and another and another. Soon he was exhausted and realized he wouldn't be able to save all the drowning people. He went further upstream to find out why all these people were falling into the river. On arriving further upstream, he discovered a broken bridge was causing people to fall into the river and end up drowning where he'd been fishing. He decided he would fix the bridge to stop them falling in instead of fishing them out after they were already drowning. So this is the metaphor in public health. Instead of trying to help someone who's already sick or who's already out of work or illiterate or struggling, the goal is to put things into place, practices, prevention programs, things like that to prevent this from happening in the first place. So it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. And like I said, I'm just starting out in this area, but and it's so essential right now as we're in COVID-19 and coming towards the end of this pandemic. But anyway, I'm really excited to be in this new career.
That's wonderful. So, basically, like you said, public health is it's all about prevention.
But yes, and as how this relates to the North Stars at Coral, a lot of it is as the metaphor makes it appear, there's a lot of protector traits involved in wanting to do public health. However, the bigger one is respectful. I'm sure a lot of you listeners have experienced trying to help someone, your sibling, something like that, maybe a peer at school, and they did not want your help. They were resistant, they had their own ideas, and that's okay. And so there isn't one way to solve public health issues. There are many ways, there are many ideas, and it's really, really important to respectfully come to decisions with groups of people who need help.
Absolutely. So it's very multifaceted.
Yes.
I am curious about your work as in a marine worm lab.
Yes.
That sounds very cool.
Yes. So this was just one of my favorite experiences. I was the caretaker of the worms, and so they are marine worms, so they live in salt water, and they were each in these. I had little tanks that probably had between 20 and 100 worms in each of them. So there were thousands of worms I was dealing with, and it was my job to feed them and keep their tanks clean. And I also was in charge of flicking a little nightlight on during the full moon week of the month, because that that little light in their dark room signaled that it was time for them to mate. They are they don't have a gender until they're mature enough, and then once the full moon signals to them it's time for them to differentiate into male and female, and they turn a different color based on if they're male or female. And then they swim around each other in a circle really, really quickly and basically explode, and their gametes fill the area, and their life is over. But now there are hundreds of potential new worms right there. So it was really interesting just being their caretaker, but I also was able to do work in the lab there. And we were studying the evolution of their development. And so I cloned their genes, and then I would take a certain gene that I wanted to look at and create a tag. We're basically in a young little baby worm. That tag would find its way around in the worm and turn purple anywhere in the worm where that gene was being expressed or turned on at the time. And so I would have a worm that had little purple spots throughout it, depending on where that gene was turned on. And so, at 4 hours, at 6 hours, at 12 hours, at 3 days, that gene would be turned on in different places all over their body, and that would teach us about how they were developing and what was being turned on to lead to what, and if we wanted to interfere with that process, what would happen down the line. And so it was really, really cool work that then goes on to relate to humans, because that's how we learn about a lot of our genes. Is we learn in animals, because it would be totally crazy to try to do this in a person. It's not ethical. So we learn about little worms instead, and then apply that to people and what we know.
That is so fascinating. I never knew that about marine worms.
Yeah. It is really, really interesting. I had no idea before working there either.
So going back to your, I guess your current career, what you're doing now, or your past career, describe your greatest successes.
So, thinking on this, it seems a little more abstract in my mind. I think my greatest successes come from trying to remain curious and following my own path and being able to ask questions. Um, I think that curiosity allows me to continue to push myself and to continue to seek out things that are interesting to me and to learn. Um, I think that's incredibly important for everyone, no matter what it is that interests you. There are things that I have no interest in, but thank goodness somebody is interested in them, because it's made my life so much easier. But I think for me, I always find success when I'm willing to be brave enough to follow my heart, follow my own path, my own voice. So
So basically, that curiosity, you have to be quite a bit of a risk taker.
yes. Yeah, you definitely do. Moving here to Albuquerque was one of those risks. I am originally from Iowa, and Iowa and New Mexico are very different. If you've never visited, they're very different. So it's been a fun adventure to move here to Albuquerque. It was definitely risky. I didn't have a job lined up before I moved. I just leapt here, knowing that I took a leap of faith, knowing that this is where I wanted to be, and this was where I was excited to find my next steps. So,
That's wonderful. So without taking that risk, you wouldn't be happy where you are now, you know?
right, right.
Okay, that's great. All right. Well, share what you've learned from failures along the way.
Yeah. So, around our house, I talk about failures a little differently. So a true failure to me is not learning from a mistake. Otherwise, when I make a mistake or misjudge something or just end up not where I thought I was going to go, I take time to step back and reflect on it so that I can learn what I need to. In some cases, that's really simple. As you get older, your choices become a little bit more complex and you realize the responsibility of having choice. And so I like to, just for an example, say I've made a mistake. For example, a relationship. Say my relationship ends. So I have been divorced, and I think my relationship there was still a success because I've learned what I needed to from it. However, at the time, it didn't feel that way. But I was able to look back and learn what I could to grow and discover what it is I truly needed, what I truly wanted, what are important factors for me in that kind of a relationship. And then it's been interesting to see years go by and I still circle back to those events and can still learn something new. And so I think that's really important about failure is being able to look at it and again get curious and say, okay, well, where can I go from here? And as I was recently explaining to my niece, there is sometimes no obvious choice. You just step out into what seems right or feels right, and you may realize, oh my gosh, I don't like this. I took a job once that I did not care for, and who knew beforehand? It seemed great. It seemed like it lined up perfectly, but it doesn't mean I failed. It just means, okay, now I know. And I've kind of started to look at it more as an exciting adventure. Okay, how am I going to turn this around? How am I going to come back from this? And so I sort of phrase failure differently in our house about how we learn from it, so that it is more of a learning experience instead of a something to feel shameful about. So that's the important thing there. Is I think just turning the lights on it, looking at it and saying, okay, well, I'm not ashamed about this. This is what happened. And I did it from my best intentions. And now we're going to move on. So, yeah, I think that some of my biggest failures were actually just turning points in my life, actually, where I learned the most about myself and what I want and what I do.
Yes, I've experienced the same thing where failures actually turned into successes.
Yeah,
By reflecting and really analyzing, what did I do wrong? How could I make it better in the
right,
future? So, it's sometimes we think of a failure that it's all our fault or we're really hard on ourselves, but that doesn't achieve anything.
right.
It just makes it worse. So,
Yeah.
by reflecting and thinking, well, okay, how can I learn from this?
Mhm.
And then you grow as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yes.
without that, we wouldn't be growing as much. We wouldn't be able to mature as well without those experiences and us really looking at them.
Yes. Well, I love your positive attitude.
Oh, thank you.
That's that's like crucial to
Yeah. Yeah, it
we have
is.
to change our attitudes a bit, to see that success from a failure.
Right.
And it takes work, but through practice and by doing it, then it's just becomes second nature.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with our students?
Um, I think that's about it for me. I am just so excited to, they're at the very, you guys are all at the beginning of your lives and you get to explore what you're interested in. And I just hope you remember that what you're interested in is what the world needs. So don't try to follow, don't try to do what you think others need, because the world needs you, what you have to offer.
And just a quick recap, Genetics are the study of genes and traits passed down from one generation to the next. Things like hair color and eye color.
Alrighty, seahorses. So the science in this power session came from the marine biology, which is the worms, as well as the worms' genetics. The engineering in this power session came from carrying and tagging the worms' characteristics. Thank you, Miss Levsen, for showing us where the North Stars and the 7 leader and me traits can take us.
See you later, seahorses.